Okay, in this video, I'm going to do a quick introduction to the spectral libraries used by headquartered and other systems. So one of the challenges with spectral libraries is you can take your spectra on many different instruments, but the acquisition of remote data is usually on yet a different instrument, and you need to convolve the spectra to um, to the flight instrument. So that's what we do with these. So by convention, we're putting all the spectral libraries in /SL1. And that way the tetracorder system knows where to find the spectral libraries, and all the systems for setup can point to the right places. Currently, we have PSI, and we're building libraries, so those are not ready for public distribution yet. And the USGS, where we have 2 libraries. And right now, you see Library 06 and Library 06 Conv. That's for convolved libraries to flight instruments. This contains the original libraries. Then we have Library 07 and Library 07 convolution libraries. And then we have a research library. And this is where we're putting in spectra that are obtained both at PSI and at the USGS post Library 06 and Library 07. Tetracorder will use the research library and the convolved libraries in 06. We currently aren't using Library 07. Okay, let me show you a couple of things about these. If we go into Library 06, and this is part of the distribution if you get a copy of these libraries. So there's the routines for building different libraries, convolution libraries, and then there will be all the support tools to do that. But there's also in the original publication, if we go into one of these libraries or subdirectories, we can see the published spectra. And we don't want to go to full screen size. But you can, the advantage of these is they're pre-built plots, and you can page through them quickly and look for spectral features or something that you hadn't seen before, and just familiarize yourself with different different spectra and what they look like. Quick note, this upturn here, common with many spectrometers, is due to scattered light in the instrument. Typically, a tungsten lamp is used, which has high red output and very low blue and UV output. And so a small amount of scattered light can contribute a lot of signal to the spectrum. This is true in any part of the wavelength, but it's particularly true in the UV when you're using a tungsten lamp, which has low UV output. And almost all spectrometers have this problem to some degree. You notice some spectra are not covering this range. That's because this is an FTIR spectrum, so the spectrum goes out a lot further. We can go to W1, that's plots.W1 is this wavelength region, 0.3 to 3 microns. W2 is 1.5 to 6 microns. W3 is the far infrared. And W4 is out to 150 microns. There are fewer spectra that go out that far, but when they do, then this is interesting. So we'll concentrate on the short wavelength for the moment. So that's this wavelength range. So you can page through and see the spectra. Yeah, some spectra are very dark and are a little noisy. That actually is improved in Spectral Library 07. These have been remeasured, or at least most of them. Okay, so it's a simple convention that we um, have these directory structures. So we're going to cd to this directory, and we're going to go into library 6 convolve. Oops. There will be a README file, and if you look at the README files and look at the first one here, it'll tell you how to make a new instrument convolved library, and it's now down to a one-line command for library 06 and a one-line command for the research library. As I mentioned in the SpecPR introduction, SpecPR files need to be no more than 8 characters. So we have um, all these short names, and when it's .list, it's just a list of the contents. So the S06 stands for Spectral Libraries 06. Then we have up to a 5-letter code for an individual instrument. AV is Avris, 18 is Avris for the year 18, and ABC if the wavelength changes throughout that year. And most of the time, the differences between years are small, but they're enough that we should, if we want to be the most accurate, do a convolution for each specific instrument state. I'm not going to go through the details. I want to page down here to the methodology for naming convention. And you see here, like AV is for Avris. For Avris, that's Avris Classic. And for Avris Next Gen, it's AN. So you can choose whatever coding you want if you have a new instrument. But what we'd like to do is if you add an instrument, that we put it into the master set, and the master set is on psi@pan.edu. That way, when we do a distribution and collect everybody's inputs, then everybody gets all the convolved libraries for all the instruments that people are working on in the field. So that's really about it. We need to keep these 8-character file names so that the SpecPR history remains accurate. And building the convolved libraries is now a pretty simple task. And with that, I'll stop.